Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Surprise. Surprise. It's Govardhan's fault. You can blame Govardhan. What happened? Oh, I see what happened. This morning we will hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 20, texts 37 through whatever's at the end, 39. My instructions are to finish up the chapter. So we have 37 on the board. Tam jaktu kamam mamatam Tung jaktu kaman mamatam Bhartu Tyaga Vishankitam Bhartus Tyaga Vishankitam Nama Nirvachanam Tasya Nama Nirvachanam Tasya Shlokam Enam Sura Jagu Shlokam Enam Sura Jagu Tang Chaktu Kamam Mamatam Bhartus Tyaga Vishankitam Nama Nirvachanam Tasya Shlokamenam Surajagu Tang Tyaktu Kamam Mamatam Bhartus Tyaga Vishankitam Nama Nirvachanam Tasya Shlokamenam Surajagu. Others, please. Vaishnavis? Okay. Word to word. Oh, anyone in the interwebs out there, hovering in the cloud or whatever? Any no disembodied voices today? Word to word. Tam, that newly born baby, Tyaktu kamam, who was trying to avoid, mamatam, unto mamata, bhartu tyaga vishankitam, very much afraid of being forsaken by her husband because of giving birth to an illegitimate son. Somehow or other, if there's a tulsi leaf in the water, it goes automatically to the sipping spot. Then it closes your throat. Nama Nirvachanam, a name-giving ceremony, or Namakarana, Tasya, to the child. Shlokam, verse. Enam, this. Sura, the demigods, Jagu, enunciated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Mamata very much feared being forsaken by her husband for giving birth to an illegitimate son, and therefore she considered giving up the child. But then the demigods solved the problem by enunciating a name for the child. Responsively, please. Mamata very much feared being forsaken by her husband for giving birth to an illegitimate son, and therefore she considered giving up the child. But then the demigods solved the problem by enunciating a name for the child. Bless you. Srila Prabhupada's purport. According to Vedic scripture, whenever a child is born, there are some ceremonies known as Jatakarma and Namakarana, in which learned brahmanas, immediately after the birth of the child, make a horoscope according to astrological calculations. But the child to which Mamata gave birth was begotten by Brihaspati irreligiously. For although Mamata was the wife of Uttatya, Brihaspati made her pregnant by force. Therefore, Brihaspati became Bharta. According to Vedic culture, a wife is considered the property of her husband, and a son born by illicit sex is called Dvaja. The common word still current in Hindu society for such a son is Dogla, which refers to a son not begotten by the husband of his mother. In such a situation, it is difficult to give the child a name according to proper regulative principles. Mamata, therefore, was perplexed, but the demigods gave the child the appropriate name, Bharadvaja, which indicated that the child born illegitimately should be maintained by both Mamata and Brihaspati. Text 38. Mudhe Bharadvajam imam Bharadvajam Brihaspate Yatau Yaduktva Pitarau Bharadvajas Tata Tvayam. Brihaspati said to Mamata, "You foolish woman, although this child was born from the wife of one man through the semen discharged by another, you should maintain him." Upon hearing this, Mamata replied, "O Brihaspati, you maintain him." After speaking this way, Brihaspati and Mamata both left. Thus the child was known as Bharadvaja. Chodhyamana surairevam matva vitattamatmajam vyasrajan maruto bhibran tato yang vitaten vaye. Although encouraged by the demigods to maintain the child, Mamata considered him useless because of his illicit birth, and therefore she left him. Consequently, the demigods, known as the Maruts, maintained the child, and when Maharaj Bharata was disappointed for want of a child, this child was given to him as his son. Srila Prabhupada's purport. From this verse, it is understood that those who are rejected from the higher planetary system are given a chance to take birth in the most exalted families on this planet Earth. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports for the 9th canto, 20th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, titled The Dynasty of Pūru. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukhaṁ Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Svayang Rupa Kadamahyang Dadati Svapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Pancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Mamata very much feared being forsaken by her husband for giving birth to an illegitimate son, and therefore she considered giving up the child. But then the demigods solved the problem by enunciating a name for the child. Brihaspati said to Mamata, "You foolish woman, although this child was born from the wife of one man through the semen discharged by another, you should maintain him." Upon hearing this, Mamata replied, "O Brihaspati, you should maintain him." After speaking in this way, Brihaspati and Mamata both left. Thus the child was known as Bharadvaja. Although encouraged by the demigods to maintain the child, Mamata considered him to be useless because of his illicit birth, and therefore she left him. Consequently, the demigods known as the Maruts maintained the child, and when Maharaj Bharat was disappointed for want of a child, this child was given to him as a son. So these chapters, as I mentioned last week, I think, bit of an adventure. Especially, I'm kind of a simple person. I come from fairly ordinary folks. My family's been in North America for almost 400 years, but most of us never been big shots. We had a cousin who was a big shot about 250 years ago. But we could make a quick tour through this chapter just to see how, as Tirtha Maharaj pointed out yesterday, interesting our journey through this chapter is. So let's do that. It's fewer than 40 verses. So Shukadeva Goswami said, "O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of Maharaj Bharat, I shall now describe the dynasty of Pūru, to which you were born, in which many saintly kings appeared, and from which many dynasties of Brahmanas began." So this is a convention, as I understand it, in Puranas, a lot of royal genealogy. But this royal genealogy, it leads directly to the family of the Pandavas, and then as we go through the rest of the canto, it'll bring us to the dynasty in which Krishna was born. King Janamejaya was born of the dynasty of Pūru. Janamejaya's son was Prachinvan, and his son was Pravira. Thereafter, Pravira's son was Manusyu, and from Manusyu came the son named Charupada. The son of Charupada was Sudyu. The son of Sudyu was Bahugava. Bahugava's son was Sangyati. From Sangyati came a son named Ahangyati, from whom Raudrashva was born. Raudrashva had 10 sons named Riteyu, Koksheyu, Standileyu, Kritiyuka, Jaleyu, Sannateyu, Dharmeyu, Sayeyu, Vrateyu, and Vaneyu. Got a little theme going there in the family. Of these 10 sons, Vaneyu was the youngest. As the 10 senses, which are products of universal life, act under the control of life, these 10 sons of Raudrashva acted under Raudrashva's full control. All of them were born of the Apsara named Grhatachi. Riteyu had a son named Rantinava, who had 3 sons named Sumati, Dhruva, Apratirata. Apratirata had only one son, whose name was Kanva. The son of Kanva was Medhatiti, whose sons, all brahmanas, were headed by Prakshanna. Interesting point. We're talking about a lineage of Kshatriyas, and Kanva was also a great Muni, then he had a son named Medhatiti, whose sons were all brahmanas. Once, when King Dushmanta went to the forest to hunt and was very much fatigued, he approached the residence of Kanva Muni. There he saw a most beautiful woman who looked exactly like the goddess of fortune and who sat there illuminating the entire ashram by her effulgence, someone who literally lights up the room. The king was naturally attracted by her beauty and therefore approached her, accompanied by some of his soldiers, and spoke to her. Seeing the beautiful woman, the king was very much enlivened, and the fatigue of his hunting excursion was relieved. He was, of course, very much attracted because of lusty desires, and thus he inquired from her as follows in a joking mood. This is flirting. "Oh, beautiful lotus-eyed woman, who are you? Whose daughter are you? What purpose do you have in this solitary forest? Why are you staying here? Oh, most beautiful one, it appears to my mind that you must be the daughter of a Kshatriya, because I belong to the Pūru dynasty. My mind never endeavors to enjoy anything irreligiously." Shakuntala said, "I'm the daughter of Vishwamitra. My mother Menaka left me in the forest. O hero, the most powerful saint Kanva Muni knows all about this. Now let me know. How may I serve you?" "O king, with eyes like the petals of a lotus, kindly come sit down and accept whatever reception we can offer. We have a supply of Nivara rice that you may kindly take, and if you so desire, stay here without hesitation." King Dushmanta replied, "O Shakuntala, with beautiful eyebrows, you have taken your birth in the family of the great saint Vishwamitra, and your reception is quite worthy of your family. Aside from this, the daughters of a king generally select their own husbands." In other words, pick me. When Shakuntala responded to Maharaj Dushmanta's proposal with silence, the agreement was complete. They say silence indicates assent. Then the king, who knew the laws of marriage, immediately married her by chanting the Vedic pranava, Omkara, in accordance with the marriage ceremony as performed among the Gandharvas. King Dushmanta, who never discharged semen without a result, placed his semen at night in the womb of his queen Shakuntala, and in the morning he returned to his palace. Thereafter, in due course of time, Shakuntala gave birth to a son. In the forest, Kanva Muni performed all the ritualistic ceremonies concerning the newborn child. Later, the boy became so powerful that he would capture a lion and play with it. Shakuntala, the best of beautiful women, along with her son, whose strength was insurmountable and who was a partial expansion of the Supreme Godhead, approached her husband Dushmanta. When the king refused to accept his wife and son, who were both irreproachable, an unembodied voice spoke from the sky as an omen and was heard by everyone present. The voice said, "O Maharaj Dushmanta, a son actually belongs to his father, whereas the mother is only a container, like the skin of a bellows." This is something kind of easily abused, I think, this sense that the mother is only a container. In fact, we hear from Srila Prabhupada, the mother is the first guru, right? And the mother's love generally can't be matched. I say generally because we just saw an instance where the mother's love was quite fallible. But generally, we see the mother's love is unmatched by practically anything that we experience in the world. If you want to see unconditional love, you got moms. Most moms. I remember when my mother passed away, although she was dying of cancer, when she did pass away, it was quite sudden, a little unexpected. She had a fall in the bedroom and went to the hospital and expired that day. And that was the hardest part of it for me because we knew her passing was imminent, but we were planning to go see her one last time. And I only had 3 things that I wanted to say. Thank you. I'm sorry. Anybody here ever been a teenager? Let me see the hands. Yeah. Come on, get them up. Bunch of chickens. I'm sorry. And I love you. Now, I knew she knew all those things, but I needed to say it, and that was the kind of the hardest part. The missing the opportunity to do that was the hardest part, because she loved me all the time, even when she was furious with me for being such a jerk, especially as a teenager. Her love never wavered. According to Vedic injunctions, the father is born as the son. Therefore, maintain your own son and do not insult Shakuntala. We know from the Mahabharata what happens when a good woman is insulted. What happens? Just mass slaughter, right? 640 million men had to die over the course of 2.5 weeks, and families were left, as Arjuna predicted, right? Families were left, the whole society was in a mess. O King Dushmanta, so y'all be cool with the Vaishnavis, especially. Be cool with all the women. O King Dushmanta, he who discharges semen is the actual father, and his son saves him from the custody of Yamaraj. Therefore the son is called what? Putra. He saves the father from the hell known as Put. You're the actual procreator of the child. Indeed, Shakuntala is speaking the truth. Shukadev Goswami said, when Maharaj Dushmanta passed away from this earth, his son became the emperor of the world, the proprietor of the 7 islands. He's referred to as a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this world. Maharaj Bharata, the son of Dushmanta, had the mark of Lord Krishna's disc on the palm of his right hand. He had the mark of a lotus whorl on the soles of his feet. By worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a grand ritualistic ceremony, he became the emperor and master of the entire world. Then, under the priesthood of Mamateya, Bhrigu Muni, he performed 55 horse sacrifices on the bank of the Ganges, beginning from its mouth and ending at its source, and 78 horse sacrifices on the bank of the Jamuna, beginning from the confluence of at Prayaga and ending at the source. He established the sacrificial fire on an excellent site, and he distributed great wealth to the Brahmanas. Indeed, he distributed so many cows that each of the thousands of Brahmanas had one budva, 13,084 as his share. Bharat, the son of Maharaj Dushmanta, bound 3,300 horses for horse sacrifices, and thus he astonished all the other kings. He surpassed even the opulence of the demigods, for he achieved the supreme spiritual master, Hari. When Maharaj Bharat performed the sacrifice known as Mashnara, or a sacrifice in the place known as Mashnara, he gave in charity 14 lakhs of excellent elephants with white tusks and black bodies, completely covered with golden ornaments. One thing to put golden ornaments on a cow, they're pretty big. An elephant, it's a lot of gold. As one cannot approach, anyway, I'm going to make a joke, but I'll let it go. As one cannot approach the heavenly planets simply by the strength of his arms, for who can touch the heavenly planets with his hands? One cannot imitate the wonderful activities of Maharaj Bharat. No one could perform such activities in the past, nor will anyone be able to do so in the future. When Maharaj Bharat was on tour, he defeated or killed all the Kiratas, Hunas, Yavanas, Poundras, Kankas, Kashas, Sakas, and the kings who were opposed to the Vedic principles of Brahminical culture. Formerly, after conquering the demigods, all the demons had taken shelter of the lower planetary system known as Rasatala, and had brought all the wives and daughters of the demigods there also. This happens in war. Maharaj Bharat, however, rescued all those women, along with their associates, from the clutches of the demons, and he returned them to the demigods. Maharaj Bharat provided all necessities for his subjects, both on this earth and in the heavenly planets, for 27,000 years. He circulated his orders and distributed his soldiers in all directions. As the ruler of the entire universe, Emperor Bharat had the opulences of a great kingdom and unconquerable soldiers. His sons and family had seemed to him to be his entire life. But finally, he thought of all of this as an impediment to spiritual advancement, and therefore he ceased from enjoying it. O King Parikshit, Bharat had 3 pleasing wives who were daughters of the king of Vidarbha. When all 3 of them bore children who did not resemble the king, these wives thought that he would consider them unfaithful queens and reject them, and therefore they killed their own sons. The king, his attempt for progeny frustrated in this way, performed a sacrifice named Marutstoma to get a son. The demigods known as the Maruts, being fully satisfied with him, then presented him with a son named Bharadwaja, and now we hear the story of Bharadwaja. When the demigod named Brihaspati was attracted by his brother's wife, Mamata, who at that time was pregnant, he desired to have sexual relations with her. The son within her womb forbade this, but Brihaspati cursed him and forcibly discharged semen into the womb of Mamata. This has forbid. Forbade or forbade. I've seen forbade. I think that's archaic, though. Mamata very much feared being forsaken by her husband for giving birth to an illegitimate son, and therefore she considered giving up the child. But then the demigod solved the problem by enunciating a name for the child. Brihaspati said to Mamata, "You foolish woman, although this child was born from the wife of one man through the semen discharged by another, you should maintain him." Upon learning this, Mamata replied, "O Brihaspati, you should maintain him." After speaking in this way, Brihaspati and Mamata both left. Thus the child was known as Bharadwaja. Although encouraged by the demigods to maintain the child, Mamata considered him useless because of his illicit birth, and therefore she left him. Consequently, the demigods, known as the Maruts, maintained the child. And when Maharaj Bharat was disappointed for want of a child, this child was given to him as his son. Sorry for that. It's harder for me to read from this book because I have eyes that are almost 80 years old. But it's harder for me to navigate an electronic thingy than a paper. I've been doing this for, I'm working with these things for going on, for more than 75 years. Stuff is kind of new to me, so I apologize for all that struggle. So what we see is the material world. Even people raised nicely, even people of elevated, not just to mention station, but elevated consciousness, do really dumb things. However, quite often, good things can come from that. I mean, after all, as Maharaj pointed out yesterday, it's Brihaspati, the guru to the devatas. But because he got this, he was attracted by this woman, he forced himself on her, and then abandoned her and the child. And then, of course, she ended up leaving the child too. So this is not a new thing. Unwanted progeny and the kind of social disasters that Arjuna was addressing in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we didn't invent them, in Kali Yuga. We certainly didn't invent them in 20th and 21st century America. We just kind of made it almost a norm, unfortunately. And we see the result of so much unwanted progeny. Now, if they're lucky, the kids are being raised by some AI something or other, if they have enough money for something like that. They're certainly not raised by their fathers and mothers, and often not even by their moms. Quite often, they're raised by their grandmothers because their immediate family is so disturbed. It's not that the people are necessarily bad people. They are jivas like everyone else, with all the same qualities as everyone else. But imposed over those qualities are these other more superficial qualities that create all this disturbance. So, we read, we think of Vedic culture as some sort of pristine thing in the past, make the material world great again, or something like that. But even in previous ages, what we see as Vedic culture had plenty of messiness for people to deal with. And of course, we see that especially manifest in the Mahabharata. We have many, many generations of all kinds of social anomalies and resentments, trauma, generational trauma passed down from family to family until it explodes in this horrendous war. for which the immediate spark was Dushasana's insulting of Draupadi. So we often, Srila Prabhupada often talked about, Vedic culture, and we aspire for some sort of Vedic culture, Varnashram culture, but we don't really. I don't think anyone has a very clear sense of what that honestly means. It's still mostly conditioned souls living in the material world, being assailed by the vagaries of the three modes of material nature. And it's simply a mess. So what we want is, as we were reading in the purport, in one of the purports a couple of days ago, we want an essential solution. We want a radical solution. Yesterday, several times during the week, I have online reading and discussion sessions with a few devotees. Yesterday, we were reading from first chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And as you get into that chapter, once you get past the discussion of Guru Tattva, and you get into the discussion past that, there are 4 verses that actually are Srimad Bhagavatam, 4 verses in a row that are actually Srimad Bhagavatam verses. These are verses from the 9th chapter of the 2nd canto that our acharyas have told us encapsulate the entire teaching of the Vedic scriptures. So we call them the nutshell verses. They're the whole philosophy in a nutshell expressed in these 4 verses of instruction by Krishna to Lord Brahma. And so we were reading those verses, and I thought, I often do this. I often find myself taking the scenic route. If people notice, quite often what I do when I'm planning a class is I'll go through the purport to the verse that's assigned, and if there are other verses that are quoted, cited, paraphrased, or alluded to, I'll go there, and I'll look at those purports and follow. It's actually quite a bit of a messy process, because you can go down a rabbit hole very easily and get completely lost. This is not a new thing for me. This happened to me even when I was in the Navy. Part of my job when I was in the Navy was writing requests to the Defense Intelligence Agency to change the status of certain targets in Southeast Asia, which is what I was working with, based on the intelligence that we got from aerial reconnaissance photography. And so I wrote, this is just kind of part of who I am, I wrote these requests very carefully, using direct language. I was like a 20-year-old kid waging a one-boy war against government gobbledygook. And I had one of those desk dictionaries, one of those college dictionaries on my desk, and I would look to make sure that I had exactly the right word. Of course, then I might see another word on the page, and I would find myself going again down a rabbit hole. And this gunnery sergeant that worked in our shop would look over at me and he would say, "Willie, you messing with that dictionary again?" Because sometimes it would be 20, 25, maybe even 30 minutes. And that's a kind of a chunk of my workday gone, just having fun. So this isn't a new thing for me, but it seems to be, and it was actually reinforced by my experience in graduate school. I found out how your professors read stuff when we read things in our field. Usually it's at least 3 times. The first time you go through this just to read, to see what's there. The second time you start making notes, and then the third time you start talking back to the author. And then you come up with your own response to that. So we were reading the first of these four nutshells. So what I did was, I asked the devotees, I took their permission. I said, okay, Prabhupada's purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is a little shorter and doesn't deal with as many things as he does in his purports in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I asked them, would you like to hear Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam purports as well as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary? And the answer was yes. So we were reading that, and what we were pointing out in that first verse, what Srila Prabhupada was pointing out, was this is the root of everything, that Krishna is the root of everything. So we're looking for a radical solution, and the word radical comes from the Latin word radix, which means root. So we want to get to the root of the problem. The radical solution is actually becoming Krishna conscious, and the easiest way to do that, and the most powerful way to actually reform our consciousness and become completely Krishna conscious, is by immersing ourselves in the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, especially the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Okay, so already in trouble, I will stop here. Dravida Prabhu?
Yeah, this is really a puzzle for me. What do you think? Here we have Shakuntala, she's pregnant, right? And Dushmanta becomes attracted to her, and he forcibly impregnates her, right? And then, as far as I can tell, her and her son, who was in there, who forbade it, but he ignored him. And what happened to that son? I mean, it sounds like now there's one illegitimate child in there, which is obviously Dushmanta's result. But it seems to be a merging here. I don't understand. Did he just disappear? He's not mentioned again. I mean, it's really a puzzle for me.
There are plenty of puzzles. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has a bit of an explanation that I'm not sure is going to make a whole ton of sense to modern folks. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this is in his commentary on text 37, from the curse of Brihaspati, the child Dirgatama was born blind. The child in the womb kicked the semen of Brihaspati with its heel, and it fell from the womb of Mamata on the ground. So apparently she miscarried. Brihaspati's issue caused Mamata to miscarry the other child. It immediately took the form of a child. Mamata desired to reject the child produced from another man. The Devatas then recited a verse to Mamata, who feared rejection by her husband. The verse was a talk between Brihaspati and Mamata. The verse gives the child a name. Now then it gets muddied again, because, oh, wait a minute, the child in the womb kicked the semen. Oh, no, yeah, it doesn't solve the puzzle at all. It actually highlights the puzzle and leaves it with us.
So it sounds like it was solved because one was in there was kicked out.
Yeah, so the child that was already there. Yeah, we don't see what happened to that child. It caused apparently an early delivery of Brihaspati's issue, which is what they rejected. But that child, the legitimate child, we don't know. We don't know. Did she? Pardon?
The legitimate child was blind?
Yeah, there was a curse that child would be blind. Brihaspati cursed the child Dirgatama to be born blind. So that's all we know. He was born blind, but before that, apparently, He caused not a spontaneous abortion, but the somehow or other the semen had apparently already mixed with an egg, which is really interesting anyway, because women don't ovulate when they're pregnant. So there's so many puzzles. So many puzzles.
I have a question.
It sounded like they kicked out the semen. They didn't mention anything about
And it became a child anyway.
yeah, they kicked out the semen, and then the semen coming out then still became a child. It sounded like, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think she has to be ovulating for that to happen. It seems like you see it elsewhere in Shastra, the semen is the
But it's still developed into
outside the womb. It's like, right?
Bharadvaj.
It said Vishwachakra Thakur said it's by the demigods or by Brahaspati or by whose potency did that semen end up still becoming a child?
It just said it immediately took the form of a child.
Yeah.
So that's the child Mamata and Brihaspati walked away from. So I don't know. Apparently,
May I ask a question?
as poorly educated as I am in science, I've taken too many science classes to make any sense of this. Yes. Who is this disembodied?
This is Maitreya.
Oh, Maitreya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I have to say, this subject matter of this part of the Bhagavatam doesn't enliven me at all. Hearing the hellish, demoniac behavior of these, the demigods, and I'm wondering, is it just me, or is it? What's the purport of all this? What's the purpose? Are we just supposed to understand from this how dangerous the modes of nature are and take more shelter of Krishna? Can you help enlighten me?
I was actually reflecting on the same thing this morning. What is the point? And the name of and it occurred to me that the name of that Srila Prabhupada calls this canto liberation. In other words, there's plenty of reasons to want out. So perhaps, because this is all leading to the appearance of Lord Krishna. And Krishna is called Vasudeva, which means that he makes himself accessible to those who are in the state of Vasudeva, purified goodness, Shuddha Sattva. So perhaps we may take these in another culture, in another time. It may have been quite obvious that this serves as a negative impetus for desiring some kind of moksha.
Okay, thank you. That's a good answer. I can't wait for Krishna Leela after hearing this.
That's and I've been thinking about, as I mentioned last week, these chapters of the ninth canto are a little hard to deal with, and I suspect that there were reasons beyond mere modesty behind my being given these verses the last 2 Fridays.
It's inconceivable that a brahmachari like Shukadeva Goswami would be speaking on these subjects. So we have to hear it. There's a purpose. Thank you very much for explaining that.
Well, that's the other thing. Because they're connected with Krishna, hearing these things are purified. As I mentioned the other day, even hearing the rasa dance properly, in the proper consciousness, with faith, Shraddhanvita, as Shukadeva Goswami says, can purify us even of the lust which is at the root of all our difficulties, of our entanglement in the material world. Thank you for the question. Not getting away easy at all here, am I?
I guess it's getting late, but one thing I note is that one after another, you start with the Urvashi and Pururava, and the dangers of yielding to this overwhelming lust, mostly in the men, is entanglement one after another, one after another, one after another. So
and we saw that. We saw that previously with as you point out with Pururava.
Yeah.
I mean, what a mess. Yes, the material world, not as much fun as advertised. So,
my favorite verses comes at the very end of this canto. Beautiful meditation on Krishna's face. Yasyananam Makadakundaracharukana. And that leads us into the 10th canto. You know.
Yeah, it creates the perfect, as we would say these days, segue.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for your patience. Grantha Raja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.